I step into the grand ballroom, the chandeliers scattering light across perfectly polished floors. The air hums with polite laughter and forced pleasantries, each smile plastered like a mask. I can feel it the moment I cross the threshold, the weight of eyes, the quiet ripple of whispers that follow me like shadows. And there they are, the ones who thought they could manipulate the moment, that they could rely on me, or worse, my auntie, to clean up their mess. I see it before words even leave their lips, the subtle tremor of panic, the quick glance to my direction, the faint curl of a smirk that doesn't quite reach their eyes. It cuts me, sharper than any insult, sharper than humiliation alone could ever sting. Then it happens. A minor mishap with the catering, a tipped tray, glasses teetering on the edge, and they freeze. Their eyes lock on mine, silent, pleading, begging for intervention. My chest tightens. How could they think I'd step in? How could they believe I'd fix this for them after all the audacity they've shown? The room seems to pause for a heartbeat. All the polite chatter dims, a single breath of anticipation suspended in the glittering air. Eyes flick between me and their obvious guilt, searching for a signal that never comes. I bite back words that could pour fire, holding the tension like a tightrope. Across the room, my auntie stands, unshaken, a quiet pillar of judgment. Her eyes meet mine for a fraction of a second. Calm, unmovable, and I feel the electricity of power shift. They stumble next, this time over numbers, miscalculations glaring in front of the board. Whispers rise like a tide, murmurs of incompetence brushing past them. The shame is not hidden. It hangs in the air like a weight, thick and suffocating. And I feel it, the thrill of anger that's been stored for years, now sparking to life. Their eyes dart to me, desperate, silently begging for rescue. But this isn't rescue. It's a reckoning. The expectation of my intervention feels like a personal insult, a gauntlet thrown at my feet, and I don't pick it up. Subtle smirks of satisfaction begin to appear on bystanders' faces. The first cracks in their polished facade are visible, tiny fissures that widen with every misstep. The air grows dense, suffused with the scent of embarrassment, clinging to them like a second skin they can't shed. I watch closely as their panic grows, the guilt etched into every gesture, every blink. Their desperation is mine to observe, a quiet leverage held in the calm grip of observation. No words escape my lips, but the weight of my presence speaks volumes. They are cornered by the consequences they never anticipated, and my auntie's silent gaze ensures they know it. The mistakes, once trivial, now tower over them. Every stumble, every miscalculation, magnified by the silent storm of justice they never saw coming. I feel the pulse of power in the room, an electric current running beneath the whispers as their world begins to tilt under its own mistakes. They thought I would shield them. They thought my auntie would step in to soothe the chaos, but neither of us moves. We watch, we wait, and they, in their arrogance, finally realize the game has changed and the consequences are theirs alone to bear. Memories of my auntie's unwavering justice surged through me, vivid as if yesterday. Even as a child, I remembered how she never sugarcoated a single truth. Her words, her gaze, her calm presence, they cut sharper than any anger I had ever felt, and they always landed with precision. Truth, in her hands, was a blade, carefully wielded, and I had learned early that no one escapes it. I thought of all the times I had been betrayed. Friends who whispered behind my back, co-workers who shifted blame onto me, lovers who expected my forgiveness without pause. Each time I had hesitated, had tried to smooth over cracks, thinking I could protect peace. But my auntie's lessons haunted me. Covering for someone's lies is the deepest betrayal, not to them, but to yourself. The echo of past humiliation pulsed now like a drumbeat inside me, fueling a fierce desire to see fairness restored. I remembered the childhood lessons that never left me. Every action carries a consequence, and every liar eventually pays. It was a law written in invisible ink across my life, and I had watched it unfold quietly, observing the patterns of arrogance that always ended in ruin. I recalled a moment when I had intervened too quickly, trying to rescue someone who didn't deserve it. Disaster had followed, messy and painful, leaving scars that were mine to carry. That memory sharpened my resolve like a whetstone against steel. This time, I would not step in. This time, I would let the truth have its full course. Years of bottled up injustice, the quiet frustration of watching those who deserved punishment slip away, rose inside me, electric and urgent. I traced the familiar pattern of arrogance in the ones before me. Confident, untouchable, convinced consequences were myths for other people. Sleepless nights came back to me, haunted by memories of manipulation and deceit, watching as others twisted reality and escaped unscathed, while I bore the weight of their games. The betrayal was bigger than these people. It was societal, a culture that thrived on the silence of those too polite to act. A cold clarity settled over me, steady and unyielding. My auntie's patience, our shared values, the understanding that justice requires neither haste nor mercy, they were the instruments of reckoning now. I could feel my heartbeat sinking with a single, undeniable truth. This isn't just embarrassment, not just minor humiliation. They must face accountability, fully, without interference, without excuse. And for the first time in years, I welcomed the tense anticipation of watching it unfold, knowing the lessons I had learned were about to claim their due. Mom, I watched them from across the room, huddled in hushed murmurs, plotting desperately to salvage the fragile threads of their reputation before disaster spreads any further. Their smiles are strained, their glances sharp, but nothing they do has weight here. Not while my auntie stands, unmoved, a quiet force in the corner. Each attempt to charm, to bribe, to twist the moment in their favor falters subtly. A word slips too quickly, a gesture comes too late, a shadow of doubt crosses the eyes of those around them. My auntie doesn't flinch, she doesn't intervene, she simply exists as a reminder that standards cannot be bent. And I feel it, the surge of power within me, not mine to wield directly, but mine to observe. I am the silent witness, the invisible hand letting chaos unfold. Their desperation feeds my pulse, my chest tightening with every tremor in their voices, every sharp, jerky gesture. Errors start to compound. Names forgotten in conversation, deadlines missed, contradictions spilling into public view. Each slip is a thread pulled from the carefully woven fabric of their facade. Rumors begin to surface, subtle at first, then louder, feeding suspicion, not just from the world outside, but from each other. Paranoia creeps in. I watch, fascinated as their personas unravel, the veneer of control cracks, revealing the anxious, uncertain core beneath. And then my auntie speaks, just once, softly, deliberately, a word, a phrase, a gentle but firm reminder of the standards they ignored. They flinch as if struck, eyes widening, hesitation frozen on their lips. They try to manipulate me next. A smile, a feigned charm, whispered urgency, but I remain a statue, a blank canvas. I let panic take root. Let it grow, let it fester. And so, a key partner cancels a deal mid-conversation, the impact resonating through the room. Their eyes snap to my auntie, pleading silently, desperation etched deep into their features. Every mistake they expected me or anyone else to cover now ripples outward, touching board members, clients, and social circles, expanding the humiliation beyond their control. Anxiety transforms into paranoia. Alliances whispering in the shadows crumble under the weight of scrutiny. I can feel the thrill inside me, the intoxicating pulse of injustice finally meeting inertia, of arrogance finally confronted by accountability. My heart races as I watch every calculated plan collapse. They make rash decisions now, choices driven by fear rather than reason. Each move exposes new layers of incompetence, each reaction a further step into the trap they didn't see. And I know with a quiet certainty that the reckoning is fully in motion, and they are powerless to stop it. The phone rang late at night, sharp against the quiet of my apartment. I answered, half expecting another meaningless call, and instead, I heard my auntie's voice, calm, measured, deliberate. She spoke with precision, revealing hidden truths they had spent months, maybe years, hoping would remain buried. I could hear panic ripple through the line on the other end. Their bravado, that arrogant mask they wore so comfortably, faltered instantly. Words stumbled, excuses rattled against the cold clarity of facts my auntie laid bare. It became unmistakably clear. My auntie was not here to shield anyone. There would be no cover, no intervention, no saving hand extended. They were facing consequences, and finally, it was all theirs to bear. A surge of vindication ran through me, sharp and electric. Years of repressed resentment, of watching injustice slide by, now had a stage. I felt it deep in my chest, the thrill of knowing that their reckoning had begun. She walked them through every past deception, exposing each lie in meticulous chronological detail. Nothing remained hidden. Every misstep, every betrayal, laid bare. Allies who had clung to them slowly withdrew, their excuses evaporating in the stark light of evidence. I watched their faces closely. Disbelief, horror, the raw realization of isolation. My auntie's quiet authority transformed whispers into murmurs of shame that echoed through every line of communication. They begged, pleaded for intervention, for mercy, for someone, anyone to step in. But the moment had passed, the rules had shifted, and their panic was irrelevant now. Later, during a critical meeting, I watched the first public acknowledgement of their errors. A forced apology, tremulous and strained, spilling out under the gaze of everyone they had tried to impress. The room tightened around them, every eye pinned them in place as the weight of truth pressed down. I could feel the tension thrum through the air like electricity. My chest tightened with anticipation, every fiber alert as the first real cracks in their armor finally appeared. Justice, patient and precise, had arrived, and there was no escaping it. The room was packed, the boardroom air thick with expectation. The confrontation I had been waiting for unfolded like a storm as the presentation began. Their mistakes, every single one, were laid bare for all to see. No shadows left to hide in. Charts glowed on the screen, emails scrolled with unrelenting clarity, documents stacked with evidence. They could deny nothing. I felt each slide, each revelation strike through them like a gavel hitting wood, the weight of accountability echoing in my chest. They tried to deflect, to point fingers at colleagues, at circumstances, at anything but themselves, but every lie collapsed under scrutiny. The cracks in their polished facade widened with each challenge, and I could feel the tension sharpen in the room like a blade. Humiliation escalated quickly. Colleagues exchanged knowing glances, silent confirmations of what they had long suspected, while my targets fumbled for words, grasping at excuses that had no purchase. Their arrogance, once untouchable, now quivered under the gaze of everyone who mattered. Financial consequences followed immediately. Contracts canceled mid-negotiation, accounts frozen, public notices quietly circulated but impossible to ignore. Every misstep now carried weight beyond their imagination. Social media took notice, amplifying every miscalculation, every tremor of panic, and their reputation crumbled in real time, unstoppable. Emotional justice arrived like a slow, deliberate tide. Apologies were extracted, public, sincere, and trembling, words that revealed their shame in a way no chart or contract could. My auntie's final words cut through the chaos, calm but absolute, resonating like a verdict with no room for denial. They were accountable, and the world would not forget. I watched them shrink before my eyes, the arrogance replaced entirely by desperation, the confidence that had once commanded rooms now fractured and small. Hidden betrayals surfaced, former allies stepping forward to confirm suspicions I had held close for months. Every mistake they had expected me, or anyone, to fix now pressed fully on their conscience, unavoidable and complete. I felt a cathartic release as years of pent-up tension, anger, and indignation dissolved in their collapse. In that moment, justice was not just observed, it was felt, raw, intimate, and irrevocable. Silence settled over the office like a heavy fog after a storm. I walked slowly through the aftermath, noticing the empty spaces they left behind, the chairs they once claimed, the corners they filled with false confidence, now hollow and quiet. The world around them began to acknowledge the fallout. Whispers of their failures spread steadily, reputations realigned, and yet my auntie remained calm, proud without a word, her presence a quiet reminder that the lesson had been delivered and received. I reflected on everything that had unfolded, how perceptions of accountability and respect had shifted in a single relentless cascade. There was a subtle satisfaction in seeing justice balance itself naturally, without theatrics, without my intervention, only truth and consequence. I reached out to those who had been wronged by their arrogance, offering words of closure, small gestures that restored dignity where it had been stripped away. In those interactions, I felt my own identity solidify. I was no longer a shield for the reckless. They could no longer manipulate me, no longer rely on my silence. Lessons lingered in the air, heavy yet clarifying. Integrity, patience, and quiet vigilance often wield more power than blind rage ever could. I watched as new opportunities emerged for those they had tried to overshadow, the world adjusting, rebalancing itself naturally around honesty and competence. Their network lay fractured, connections severed, influence diminished. The ripple effects of their mistakes continued to spread, and I could sense the lingering tension in every corner they had once claimed. I whispered a silent thanks to my auntie for teaching the hardest lessons in the most enduring way. The thrill of fairness restored lingered within me, a quiet pulse that marked the emotional arc as complete. So, life resumed its rhythm, yet the echoes of their public reckoning remained, a permanent reminder that arrogance has a cost, and justice, however patient, always finds its mark. They expected me to save them, but justice isn't about rescue, it's about truth. I say it now, directly to you, because that's the lesson I want carried beyond this story. Patience, restraint, the quiet power of letting consequences unfold naturally. These are the tools that cut deeper than any anger ever could. Arrogance, deception, the kind that thrives on shortcuts and manipulation, they never escape the light for long. I've learned that sometimes the strongest act isn't intervention, but standing aside, watching, waiting, letting the world correct itself. It's not easy, but in that stillness, courage finds its most potent form. I close my eyes and see her, my auntie, calm, unflinching, eyes steady, voice measured. That gaze, that presence is etched into me forever, a lesson in justice carried silently yet powerfully. I want you to reflect. When have you ignored injustice? When have you allowed mistakes to slide, thinking someone else would fix them? And if faced with arrogance like theirs, how would you respond? Revenge, true revenge, isn't cruelty. It isn't spite. It's restoring balance. It's reclaiming dignity that was stolen, and ensuring truth stands where lies once ruled. I imagine the room now, empty and quiet. The hum of accountability lingers in the air, a testament to lessons learned, to justice delivered, to strength revealed. If you've ever faced someone who underestimated your power, your integrity, your resolve, share your story below. Let's talk about real justice, and the quiet, unyielding force that ensures